Hello, listeners. Welcome to this week's Football-Oranje podcast. I'm Michael Statham, and I'm here with Michael Bell and James and Chaka, and we're going to discuss plenty about the Eredivisie. Plus, we're going to answer your Twitter questions, and we'll share for you some of our favourite Dutch football memories today. Hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe to us on YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes. Okay, so let's start with Ajax Schalke. Big game tomorrow. Europa League quarter-final, first leg. Ajax are at home. Predictions?
I predict. I think Ajax are going to win. Very slender win. I think it's either going to be 1-0, 2-1, or something like that. It's interesting because it's the first match in the playoff phase where they have the first match at home. So it's more about imposing themselves and looking to not concede an away goal rather than going away. And in the last round against Copenhagen, they lost 2-1, but they returned to the Amsterdam Arena in good spirits because they had got that vital away goal. And the loss of Lasse Schöne will be interesting. He's such a big part of how they play. Peter Bosz calls him the controller. And Jairo Riedewald isn't in the squad, so it's either going to be Donny van der Beek or Frankie de Jong playing in that role. And Donny van der Beek, in the last two games of the Europa League he's been very technically lacking, but he played in that role against Standard Liège where he was really good and set up that El Ghazi goal during the group phase. And it's an interesting position for either one of those kids who goes there because they go against Goretzka, who's very strong, very bullish, and who sort of give them a hard time and sort of try to run them ragged. And I think I was going to go, my preferred choice would have been Riedewald because he had the physical and technical capabilities to match Goretzka and sort of also help with playing out the back, and he also has experience as a centre back. But I think between those two, I'm not sure who they'll go with. Peter Bosz in his pretty much press conference tonight to really let the media know which one he was going to pick, and he said he would let the players know first. So I think that will be a very interesting aspect towards that game.
I agree. I think Ajax need that more defensive midfielder against Schalke. Someone a bit more physical who's going to deal with Schalke's threat, because it's very important Ajax don't concede an away goal. It's going to be difficult for them at home to a Bundesliga side, even though they do sit in 10th. And I think they're going to have a hard time as well trying to beat their back four as well as Bentaleb as well in midfield, who's always decent for Spurs. Technically, he wasn't fantastic, but he can pass and he's very good at breaking down play midfield. So that's where I think the challenge will lie for Ajax as well. Really not conceding that goal.
I think they should really look to challenge Bentaleb because he's been very good for Schalke and he's very good in the higher positions, especially. But he tends to lose the ball a lot in the deeper positions, and teams tend to target to press him in the Bundesliga, and they get a lot of joy out of basically pressuring him in the deeper positions because he lacks the sort of motoring qualities of a true, deep-lying midfielder. And even at Tottenham, that was really a facet of his play, just losing the ball carelessly in the deeper positions. And they're going to be without Cullen-Asach, who's been instrumental for them at left back. They're going to be without Choupo-Moting, which makes them easier to pass. They've got live wire in Connie Plaka, who's rarely played this season, but is still a threat. Schalke, even though they're 10th, they're still a very strong team. They look to press the midfield, so it's going to be an interesting game for Ziyech and Klaassen as they sort of look to drive Stabuli and Kolasinac and Bentaleb out of position so they could play balls into Dolberg up front. And it's Peter Bosz said in his press conference, whichever team imposes the style more wins the game. So I think Ajax have been very, very strong at the Amsterdam Arena. I wouldn't be able to predict what would happen in Gelsenkirchen, but I really back Ajax at the Amsterdam Arena.
I agree. I can see Ajax winning the game tomorrow 2-1. When I look at Schalke's squad, I think it's quite impressive with Embolo, Huntelaar, how it is, Badstuber. It's going to be the biggest test they've faced in Europe so far, with all the teams against all the opponents they've faced. I think Ajax will win 2-1, but I'm not entirely sure they will win through in Germany. That will be different, but I have full confidence for them tomorrow, and I think they take the game to Schalke. I think they'll go for the jugular, and I can see them winning 2-1.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident actually in Ajax. I think Ziyech's going to be the key man in the middle. I think he's been on fire the past couple of weeks. If he gets the space, he can create chances for Traore. Dolberg being back is another big plus for Ajax. I can actually see them winning. And I think 2 goals. I don't think the Schalke side are as strong as they've been in the previous few years. I know they're still a Bundesliga side, and you say they're stronger than the Dutch side, but I don't think Ajax should be scared in any way. And the way Ajax have played at home in Europe this season definitely gives me confidence. They've won all home games. Interesting fact as well is that Schalke have never won a competitive game in the Netherlands as well. So everything's looking good by Ajax tomorrow, and I just want to be confident going into it, thinking that they can get a good result.
Yeah, the clash in styles is going to be interesting because you've got Ajax who are technically better than Schalke, but Schalke will be physically better than Ajax. And I wonder if Bosz would want to stick with perhaps Traore up the top and have support out wide, because Traore has been in form in recent weeks, or whether he does want to switch back to having Dolberg up front.
And again, I think the physical aspect on that is if you put Traore up front, and you're putting in Kluivert or Neres, who are quite slim wingers. I mean, I know Kluivert tore Karsdorp apart during the Classico, but there was that moment where they tried to go shoulder to shoulder, and Kluivert just got absolutely bundled off into the floor and went flying. And I think these big physical Schalke defenders might just have a bit too much for them.
I think, I would agree with Michael because they're playing Neres or Kluivert out wide, and Neres, he's improved. He was brilliant against NEC, but a match of this magnitude, sort of throwing him in there from the start, it could be a bit big. It could come a little bit too soon for him. So I'd rather go with Dolberg and Traore. I think Dolberg's the much better finisher, and I think you would need to rely on a much better finisher than Traore. And Traore said to NOS after the NEC match, he's very comfortable playing out on the right. He's very comfortable playing through the center, and he feels that he can play both roles to the best of his ability. So I think going with Traore out wide, that will be better. And I think from the physical aspect, you saw Ajax against Copenhagen, and they were a very physical team, and they were much bigger than Ajax. And in the first minute of the away game, you can see Ajax concede due to them being battered physically, and they concede the second goal where De Ligt is basically being lent over by Cornelius. But I think Schalke are also the less physical team, and they're also a bit more technical, and they'll try to move their ball around and try to really, really press the Ajax midfield. So that's a very interesting aspect in the game. But I personally believe that when it's at the Amsterdam Arena, I think Ajax tend to pin teams back more. They tend to sort of have their way with teams. I like to look to the game against Celta Vigo during the group stage where Ajax pinned them back and they're 3-0 up in 70 minutes, and Celta Vigo only had one shot on target at that time before Buzz substitutes Ziyech and Dolberg, and Ajax collapsed and ended up winning 3-2. So I think that match in the group stage where they absolutely battered Celta Vigo for 70 minutes gives me a lot of confidence in this team. And I think they could really, really impose their style against Schalke tomorrow.
I agree. I think that Schalke may even come back in an attempt to come by with a clean sheet. I like Peter Bosch's confidence going into the match. He said that he wants the team to go on two fronts. He really wants the club to go ahead with the Eredivisie challenge and a Europa League challenge. And but I just wonder if, and we've spoken about it a few times recently with Ajax, is this going to hinder them? Is this going to end their challenge on the Eredivisie front or the Europa League front if they're going to be playing all these matches? They face Heerenveen at home the weekend, then they have Schalke away, and then it's PSV away. And that's all within 2 weeks. 4 very tough fixtures. Can they handle it? Is that going to be their downfall? Can Final take advantage of that, even though they face Utrecht at the weekend and Vitesse in the future? What do you think there?
I think, as cliche as it sounds, I think time will tell. I think the game against Heerenveen on Sunday, which I will be attending, I don't think they'll be lackluster, but they may be physically worn down for the efforts for the game against Schalke. But it's also not clear cut with Feyenoord having to go to Vitesse, playing Utrecht this weekend, and also playing Excelsior, which you would say 9 times out of 10 Feyenoord would win, but it's a derby. It's at the Woudenstein in Rotterdam. So they are, of the 4 remaining games left with Feyenoord, for them it's not cut and dry. I think there'll be many twists and turns ahead, and I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think from Ajax's point of view, if they do feel that they can win the league, I personally think they'll put all their eggs into that basket to become champions. And if they were to bow out at the quarter-final stage of the Europa League, they would see it as a form of progress, considering the route they've taken to top their Europa League group for the first time in many a year, and to have made significant progress on a European front.
Yeah, and I think there will be a situation where Buzz is forced to change, because you see they'll be without Shana this weekend. They'll be without Shana tomorrow, and then he'll be back this weekend and he'll be fresh. And I think against Alkmaar, they were without Veltman, and Tete played, and in the second half against NAC, he took off Shana and Verheven, and he'll basically be forced to rotate through suspensions and things like that. And James is right, only time will tell, especially that match next week against PSV. What kind of form, what kind of physical shape that they go into that match with. And Dolberg will be back. He will be back tomorrow, and he also would have had a rest. He would have been recovering, but he would have a little bit of rest, and you would hope that he would be fresher and much more willing to get going. And I think it's just the small things like that, and the way that Buzz sort of deals with sort of injuries and suspensions, and sort of taking players out and putting players in, that will have a massive effect on how they progress on both fronts.
think time will tell, but looking at next week, you're saying that's probably the biggest week of Ajax's season. It really depends on the mood going into the next game. If they lose tomorrow, he might just decide to rest a few players in the away leg against Schalke. But if they win tomorrow, he's going to go for it against Schalke, I think, next week. And it depends on how they fare in that game going into the PSV game. I mean, PSV away is probably the toughest fixture they could have picked after Schalke away. And I think they're coming into form. And on paper, they're probably the strongest side in the Eredivisie. I think if Ajax lose both those games, you probably still say they're favourites for second, but I think that's generally the title race gone. Then you're saying, Champions League qualification is still good for Ajax, and they can still get through the qualifiers next year. And they need to make sure they don't let PSV overtake them, and then they get stuck with Europa League again.
But Feyenoord have definitely left the door open with their draw against Pek Zwolle. 2-0 down after not very long in the match, and luckily Berghuis could save them. It was another disappointing result for Feyenoord.
Yeah, they set up so well against Feyenoord. It was 2 moments of individual brilliance from Berghuis driving in from out wide and shooting. They've lost Karsdorp, which is a huge loss. Jorgensen will be back shortly, but he was also a huge loss at the weekend. Dirk Kuyt was playing through the middle, and you see why he sort of has only played there a bit in the sort of 2 years there, mostly because when he joined, he preferred the wing. But I think it just makes you realize how important Jorgensen is to that team. And I think the Utrecht will be a huge game for them, because Utrecht are on a good run of form. They're putting some distance in between themselves and the other teams chasing 4th position. They're 10 points ahead of AZ. So Feyenoord's sort of injuries, especially to Karsdorp, who's almost like the playmaker, they will start to add up, and it'll be interesting to see. It will be a big test on Van Bronckhorst's coaching style and how he looks to galvanize his side and looks to really aid them to make that final push for the title, with Ajax breathing down their necks.
I actually think Van Bronckhorst made a big mistake against Pek Zwolle and actually picking Dirk Kuyt. Kramer did well midweek against Go Ahead Eagles. It's only Go Ahead Eagles, but he played well. And then instead of picking Kramer, the more natural replacement for Jorgensen, he picked Kuyt, and I don't think Kuyt hardly had a chance throughout the game, and he didn't make an impact. And Kramer came on too late to try and save the day. And I think if you switch them from the start, I think Feyenoord probably would have had a better game and probably would have won it.
There seems to be a lack of trust from Van Bronckhorst in his reserve players. We haven't seen Gustafsson play in a while. Bart Newcoat has started to play some more matches, but that's probably because he's needed. For example, in the Klassiker, Newcoat was playing in midfield when Renat Tapia, who's a natural defensive midfielder, should have been given a chance, but was but he was only brought on once there was an injury to Karsdorp. Newcoat had to go to right back, and there seems to be a lack of trust with these reserve players. Another example there with Kramer only being put on late in the game when he should have been starting as he is not as effective in the top role as he used to be.
I think the start of the game against Utrecht on Sunday is going to be very interesting. I translated the interview that Van Bronckhorst gave to the NOS after the draw against Zwolle, where he claimed that he couldn't really explain why they were conceding so many early goals away to Sparta in Zwolle and also in Amsterdam against Ajax. Okay, this is a home game, but to come out of the block sharp, to know what you have to do, to know what's expected. Van Bronckhorst himself claims that Feyenoord need to win all their remaining games in order to be champion, and I think he's absolutely right. I think if they slip up in the following 4 games, if they slip up once, I think that's it. So the pressure is on for them. As I mentioned in the previous pod, as an outsider looking in, should Feyenoord not win this title, I think that this will damage them long term. To get so close and to finally not win the league will be difficult for them to accept. Not just the club, but the city of Rotterdam as well, and all the people that want Feyenoord to do well, and also from Feyenoord supporters from afar. So the pressure really is on for the club in this testing time ahead.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there, James. I think Feyenoord will be very nervous heading into the next game because they're in form. I just wonder if the mentality of the Rotterdammers is enough to see them past the challenge of Utrecht because the visitors that they're in form, but it's coming to the end of the season and the 4th place looks to be theirs. It doesn't offer them anything different to 5th or 6th or 7th, apart from perhaps a better draw, arguably, in the Europa League playoffs. So I wonder if mentality will be the telling factor. But yeah, they do have some weapons. I mean, Allaire is looking for a move abroad in the summer. Badazic as well. They're all players that are on form. And yeah, they're very dangerous.
Yeah, I think if you look at Utrecht squad, there's one man who would like to be given a chance and would love to impress against Feyenoord, and that's Zivkovic. I mean, he's always wanted to try and impress Bosch. The way he can do it is, on Sunday, if he's given a start, score against Feyenoord, and then he might get another chance at Ajax next season.
Yeah, and I think there's another man we'll talk about, Yassine Ayoub, who's been on some form this season. He's always had the talent. He's always been such a well-rounded midfielder. Can really get in on the physical side, technically excellent, skilled with the ball, and he has a huge history of always playing well against the bigger sides. He scored the only goal against Ajax last season when Ajax went away to Utrecht, and then he assisted another one when Ajax were at home to Utrecht, and he's going to be one to watch. He's become sort of the fulcrum of this side. Amrabat, Sofian Amrabat, also very diligent defensively. Only 20 years old, a young player that's come to the academy and that Ten Hag has really groomed as he's moved forward. And Giovanni Truppi scored. He scored in the match where Feyenoord had to come back to 4-4, and Feyenoord beat Utrecht in the final minutes 4-3 in the reverse fixture. So he will be one to watch. And Utrecht aren't a team that Van Bommel should be taking lightly. And Ten Hag had two chances to make Europe last season in the KNVB Cup final and the Europa League playoffs, and he will be looking to consolidate 4th place so that he doesn't have to go into another Europa League playoff this season with a team that are very capable of doing of really challenging the other sides in the Eredivisie this season.
I think
Go ahead.
what makes short against Feyenoord is if you've got a bit of pace against your defence that was missing Karsdorp. We didn't have Congo. Pace really troubles the centre backs, Van der Heijden, Bottine, who aren't the quickest. So if Feyenoord push forward against Utrecht and they have someone like Kirk or Zivkovic up front, that could have big damage on their defence if Zivkovic can get away at his speed. And I think Haller's not the quickest, so I think Ten Hag might be quite smart to start Zivkovic and Kirk up front and drop Haller to the bench. I think that would actually work against this Feyenoord team.
Yeah, Peck started Menig through the middle, especially after he missed that big chance the week before, and he had a similar chance and he buried it. And they were always just a threat on the counter with those long balls to Menig. And it's something. It's been something that's been noticed about Feyenoord by sort of spectators, that they're a good team. They're very workmanlike, but they aren't perfect, and they've got a lot of places where you can really hurt them. And I always look at that flank that Nelom's on. He always leaves too much space behind him. If any winger with strength and pace takes him one-on-one, he's in trouble. And I think more teams should be looking to utilize his weaknesses.
I was going to make one final point on Utrecht. Their goalkeeper, Janssen, the Dane, he's been a very good replacement for Robin Walter, who got injured early in the season, and he's leaving for a free in the summer at Alta. So Janssen has been like a ready-made replacement for next season as well. He's kept a lot of clean sheets. Yeah, just want to point out that he's also been another strength for the team. Defensively, they've been very good, even though they're not star names such as Leovin and Janssen, but they have a lot of experience there as well. Like Feyenoord in a way. Perhaps some pace would be helpful for Feyenoord to try and get in behind Utrecht. But we can't count out PSV in the title race. Some perhaps noticed that they're starting to play better without De Jong in the team, and Van Ginkel has been netting plenty of goals. Are they a good shout still for first, if not second?
They're kind of a rough spot right now because they brought off De Jong in the second half, at the beginning of the second half against Willem II, and there were many chants from the PSV fans telling Koku to wake up and bring on Hendricks and Locadia, and they sort of played the way they always have in the first half of that game. They moved the ball around. They should have been 1-0 down. Tom High had a shot that went over the line, and the fans had a right to be frustrated after a draw with Twente in midweek, and then Koku brought on Locadia and De Jong. It's sort of the bad point of the season, and the second time Koku has had to substitute one of his players at halftime for performance-based issue, and then they got going. They were more threatening, and the thing is they also score a lot more goals from corners. I saw them against Feyenoord. They only had 1 or 2 corners, and then the next week they played Roda and they scored from 2 corners, and this weekend they scored from 2 corners again. And when you have the left foot of Cuadrado, you're always going to be a threat from set pieces, and especially Cuadrado in the zone is also poses a bit of a conundrum for Koku, because he's been the best player this season, but he cannot continue to enjoy that luxury next season because Hendricks is raring to go. He played last week against Sparta Rotterdam, and he controlled the game, and he was brilliant. He was incredible, and the fans enjoyed it. And he's someone that really resonates with the fans coming through the academy, and they want to see him play more, and he wants to play more. So that's why I don't see them keeping Cuadrado next season. And it's very interesting to see with them fighting for third place, and bar anything really bad happening, you don't expect them to move from third place. So I think some of the youngsters should be given a chance. Lammers should get more game time before next season. Hendricks should also get more game time before next season, and he should really start to bring through some of the players and start to give them Eredivisie experience, because Bergwijn didn't get much last season. He played here and there, and in his first season with the first team, his first full season with the first team, he hasn't performed as well as people would like, because he wasn't brought through in the same way Ajax are bringing through their youngsters. So it's gonna be interesting to tell if Koku decides to continue without De Jong, who is also the captain. If he continues with Locadia or Lammers, I hope to see Lammers get some game time because he's when we talk about Holland bringing through players in specialist positions, he's a very talented young striker coming through at one of the bigger clubs, and I would like to see him more in Eredivisie football. So Koku in the final season of the season, he needs to start making decisions so he can shape a good team for next season, and not just basically be thinking about are we going to bring Van Hinkel and Zinchenko back on loan, or continue with Ismail Marin and Schwab and Moreno when Manuel Koch went to Utrecht on loan, didn't get much game time there, and has come back on loan. And I've seen him a bit. He looks to be a very talented young defender and has really got the game time. So he needs to start bringing through some of these talented youngsters and to give them more game time in the next week. So next season they're a bit more experienced and they can perform a bit better because they will have an understanding of the level.
I think in the case of PSV, they can only keep winning and see where they finish the season. It's going to be a very interesting summer for PSV, and I'm particularly curious as to how they're going to approach the transfer market, what they are going to do in terms of personnel, not just buying but also maybe selling. PSV will also be highly motivated to win the title back, having not won any trophies this season, having got knocked out of the Dutch Cup by Sparta Rotterdam away. The pressure is also on Philippe Cocu this summer because to elaborate on what Chaka rightly said about if you compare PSV to Ajax, where Peter Bosz has been letting the youngsters, giving them a lot of experience, I personally don't think Cocu has really been really motivated to do that. I think he's been completely focused on winning to the point of doesn't matter how. Where maybe that's come at a cost of the youth team. In the case of Bergwijn, I was at the game last season in Amsterdam when I played Ajax. I think he came on for no longer than 10 minutes. And I think that Cocu needs to learn over the summer to find a balance of bringing in, like Sam Lammers, who I think he scored almost 20 goals in the Europa League in the division below. There is talent at his disposal, but he has to find a balance of letting that talent come through to the first team, as well as keeping the drive that PSV have to win at all costs. So I think it's going to be a very interesting summer for PSV in many ways, particularly in the transfer market.
Going back on Luc de Jong, I think Sunday showed just how much of a hindrance he's actually been on the side this season. He's been on fire the past 2 seasons, but 8 goals in 30 games for a striker in the Eredivisie at PSV is a shocking statistic. Locadia showed on Sunday the movement that he has, the link-up play he can have with the wings on the box. It's so much more threatening just having Luc de Jong in there. I think Cocu has a big decision to make for the end of the season because Locadia took his chance on Sunday and showed that he's the man that should probably lead the line for the rest of the season, or Lammers give him a chance. And they've still got an outside chance. If they beat Ajax could slip up. They could next second again in Champions League. Can you really risk playing Luc de Jong up front anymore because he's just not scoring goals? He's getting chances, but he's not putting them away. I think his style up front is actually hindered the likes of Bergwijn and Pereiro just with his link-up play and his lack of movement around the box. I think Locadia up there with Bergwijn, with Pereiro, the movement of that front three could be a lot more dangerous going forward. And this is what I see on Van Hinkel as well. His stats since coming back are pretty incredible. 7 goals, 2 assists in 11 games, and you compare that to someone like Davy Proper, 30 games, 5 goals and 7 assists. Van Hinkel's an excellent player. It's going to be a big summer for him where he decides to go. If he decides to have another go at Chelsea, will Conte give him a chance? And then if he goes to try and get loan move elsewhere, I think it didn't work out at AC Milan. Tried to play him deeper. It didn't work out at Stoke. Tried to play him deeper. Him returning to PSV permanently will probably be the best move for his career right now, I think, going forward.
Yeah, I think, and it falls in line with what I'm saying. He said he was in the summer because PSV don't have the money to spend like Ajax spent on Hakim Ziyech. And if that's the then Koku has to start bring through these young players, because if they start relying on loans, it's gonna be like them falling back to what they used to do, and that proved to be very detrimental for them in the longer term. And I think Koku also there has to be a massive restructure of their first team, because they haven't been good enough this season. The sort of brand, the football that they've played has been very bland and uninspired, and you can't continue to rely on moments of Guardado magic or proper getting into the right position or Van Hinkel brilliance when you've got one of the best sides in the Eredivisie who aren't performing. Pereira scored his 10th or 11th goal, but you're hard pressed to find a game where you really sat back and gone, wow, this season he's really like played his socks off. And it's just basically a microcosm of PSV's whole season, because they have the players and they have what many believe is a very talented coach, but they haven't really put in the performances. Someone's going to be asking themselves, what is Zinchenko doing with young PSV? Surely he's good enough to be with the first team. And when he did play with the first team, he was actually quite good. And just the way this side has been made up by brands, and the way Coco is sort of has been very, very unimpressive, because they should be doing better, and these players are capable of better. And if they're not, the younger players like Rigo, Powell, who deserve more opportunity. And it's just been very, very it's been very, very, very interesting to see how they've performed and how they've gone about this season.
Yeah, let's make a point about how it is going to be a massive summer for Kaku. Should he stay at PSV? I think he needs to make a bold move, as Michael's brought up already, about trying to play Lecardia more. He's starting a new contract, and he wants to be important for PSV. I think he should look more at being the main striker again the next season. But when Lecardia was a main striker in the past for PSV, he wasn't as effective as perhaps was expected. That said, he was very young at the time, and he has developed a lot since then. But yeah, no, he offers a lot more movement, which De Jong just simply doesn't. And I don't think PSV anymore can rely on De Jong's height and presence in the box in the area to grab goals. It hasn't worked this season. Maybe defenders have realised the threat up front and have simply stopped it. De Jong's also just not been on form. But yeah, no, Kaku needs to look at perhaps selling quite a large part of his first team squad. He needs to look at bringing the youth players in. Another player that to add to Xhaka's list is Jordi Device at Excelsior, He's been good. He's very physical. He's a big defender. Could play centre back and left back, so he offers that versatility. Should PSV want to have a backup left back, for example. And players like Hendricks, the card as I mentioned, Isimat need to have bigger roles next season. I don't think they can rely on Schwab at centre back. They can't expect to promote him to be one of the first choice centre backs. And I can see Moreno going in the summer without Champions League football on the table. So they need a new centre back. They need a new goalkeeper with Zutz going as well. So it's going to be a very big summer for them, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it makes you realize how much of a confidence player that Luke de Jong is, because that's the thing that burned down at Mönchengladbach and especially Newcastle. And, Koku sort of coaxed it out of him by letting him take penalties when he first joined. And in those first few months, he only scored through penalties before he really found his rhythm back. And he went up from there last season. And this season, things haven't gone his way, and he's just basically crumbled. He misses one sitter a game, and he basically shrugs, and that's it for him. And you rarely see him. And there's games where he's had like one shot only in the whole game as a striker, and that's been appalling. And someone who has said that he wants to sort of move from the Eredivisie again and show they can do it at a higher level has really been set back by this season, because I think teams are going to look at him and say like only 10 goals in the Eredivisie, and he hasn't got much time left to sort of play at the level that he aspires to play at, and clubs will already be very wary of him. So they also need to make a big decision about where he goes and sort of his role within the team, because if he doesn't improve, then they're wasting a spot on this team where they have a young striker who could possibly be better, a young striker that's being groomed by Ruud van Nistelrooy and the youth team. And I agree. I've said they need a new centre back. They need a new they need a new goalkeeper. They signed Euros in the summer, and they also need to not overstock in midfield like they did this season. You have CM De Jong, who hasn't been a starter, but when he's come in, he scored some goals, but that's been detrimental for the progression of Paul and Rigo, because that's their spot in the first team taken. So they really need to have a think about which young players are going to really get an opportunity next season, which they're going to go and focus on bringing through. And Koku really needs to think about what system he's going to play and how he's going to sort of reshape his side to make them better and bring back that swashbuckling attacking style that was so prevalent during the 2 title-winning seasons.
I think PSV would be wise to make Van Ginkel's deal permanent as soon as possible. If I was them, that would be the first thing I attempt to do when the transfer window opens. As regards to De Jong and stating that he wishes to go even higher and to prove himself again, I think his comments are really someone just reiterating their pride, really. I mean, he had chances with Mönchengladbach, he had chances with Newcastle, he didn't take them. And I think, although he does appear happy to be at PSV, him still regularly giving comments about wanting to move on to even a higher level, or to prove himself at a higher level, to prove that he can do it. I think from a personal point of view, I just think it's his pride and not wanting to accept that the chances he had at Mönchengladbach and Newcastle he didn't take, and maybe he wants to maybe force through a move or finally have that move somewhere along the line to prove. But I personally don't think he'll get that chance. I think there are, especially from the Dutch media, there's been for quite some time. Different outlets have said that he should be more than happy to lead the line at PSV and should really concentrate on scoring as many goals as possible. But I think he's been a little bit sidetracked by his coming off a title-winning season, not being able to reproduce again, and also the personal pride of wanting to right the wrongs of what happened in the past when he couldn't really cut it at higher levels.
Yeah, I think the worry for PSV this summer is that nobody comes in for De Jong and they get stuck with him. I think if a foreign club's going to come from, it's going to be, it's going to be a lower Bundesliga club. It's going to be, maybe a Portuguese side, a French mid-table side, or English Championship, English just promoted sides. It's not going to be high level. It's not going to be a European side, I don't think. So he's on a big contract at PSV. I'm sure he signed a 5-year deal. So he's still there for another few years. So it's a worry for PSV that you can't get rid of him and give Fulcadia a chance, give Lammers a chance. If I was Coffee this summer, one of the signings I would sign Jerry St-Just from Heerenveen and Haps from AZ, and then that sorts out the back line if Billings leaves and if he's a new centre back. So just Haps, that sorts that out. Get rid of a couple of midfielders, give Hendricks more time, try and get Van Ginkel permanently if they sell proper and the money's there for Van Ginkel. Out wide to find with Guerrero to go Bergwijn, Arcadia, maybe send one more winger, but then I think that should be alright for next season. They just need to get a balance right in the side. I don't think they've got at the moment. They've got too many players in midfield, and I think that's hampering, and De Jong's hampering up front.
Yeah, and also paying the most in the Eredivisie in wages, and some of the wages that they're paying are astronomical. So they also need to shed some of these high earners. I think in regards to Van Ginkel, I don't think it's feasible to look at getting him permanently because PSV don't have the money, and Van Ginkel wouldn't want to join PSV permanently. He probably right now is looking at sort of his agent is probably looking sort of a loan to a team in a higher league, or a loan to a team around the Premier League again, or whether Conte would like to keep him or having him do a preseason with Conte. So I would, if Van Ginkel was to return to PSV next season, it would be on another loan. I don't think they would be looking at signing him permanently, and I don't think he would be looking at moving permanently.
Sounds a bit obvious, but I can see Koeman going in for Van Ginkel for his Everton team. It's a tough. PSV will prove a tough game then for Den Haag this weekend, because PSV are in form. But so are Ardo. They've won their last 3 games in a row. So do Ardo really need the points? Are they as in trouble as we initially first thought? It's been an incredible week for them.
I think what's helped them is the downturn of form from Sparta and NAC. I think NAC lose 10 of their last games is shocking, and I think Rowe down 27 points. Then there's 3 teams above them on 28 points. So that's really a predicament. And against PSV, I think they'll be looking to stack up some points together, and they'll really give PSV a fight. And PSV for the last season or so have struggled with teams' position. That's where they sort of got those draws or failed to really win games. So I think Ado would need the points just to get a bit further away from the relegation zone, just in case that there's an upturn of form from NAC or Sparta, so they can be secure.
I will be interviewing Eduard de Plan on Friday afternoon, so I think I time my interview well with 3 consecutive wins for ADO Den Haag. I think the atmosphere should be pretty good in the camp. I disagree with Chaka. I think ADO Den Haag have managed to pull away through their own resources that they have. They have been helped by teams maybe losing, but they are the ones that have won the games that needed to be won, whereas Sparta Rotterdam in particular have not done that. I think they're safe. I never suggested that ADO Den Haag would get relegated. I always thought they would get out of it, and I think they're climbing towards safety. I think they'll be fine. Sparta Rotterdam, on the other hand, I'm not surprised, and be interesting to see what happens with Nijmegen, because they play in their last 4 games. They play AZ Alkmaar, Heerenveen, and Twente, and you can't necessarily see them gaining many points from those 3 games. I think that Go Ahead are now gone. I think you can safely say that Go Ahead will go. I think the bottom 3 will be Go Ahead, Sparta Rotterdam, and possibly Nijmegen. I think that's what I can see happening in the last 4 games.
In my opinion, a lot of it rides upon Eredivisie and Sparta this weekend. I think that, yeah, I agree, James. Go Ahead are gone. They lack the fight. Although I do think Go Ahead may pick up a win this weekend away at Villantoi. I think they might pull out stops to try and win that one, but it won't be enough. But I can also see Roda in the bottom 3, and Sparta. I think Roda, they're already 2 points away from safety. So it's already a bit of a fight to get out. But they have home games against Sparta and a home game against, I've forgotten. But it's against another team that are in the bottom 6. But NSA, yeah, I wonder if they have the fight as well, like Go Ahead, to try and really come out of trouble. It's gone from bad to worse for Nijmegen, and I just wonder if anything can turn around. Luckily, they have some talented players, Kolot and Kadioglu, because without them, I wonder where they'd be. We'll see though. We'll see come the end of the season, but yeah, I think Roda may not survive. I think Sparta might get something from there, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think Nijmegen are in big trouble. I think their coach, Aguala, has been asking for help this week. He's under big pressure. He's struggling. You mentioned Kadioglu and Grot, but Aguala has been starting Kadioglu on the bench and not bringing him on till the second half. And then when he comes on, he scores goals, and then you're wondering why he didn't start again. Then Aguala go, I don't think he's ready. But the rest of his team's just not good enough. And they're relying on a 17-year-old to come on and inspire them. I think after the game against Ajax, he came out and criticised his players. Kadioglu said that it was like watching a game of FIFA. It's like Ajax just tore them apart, and nobody showed any fight, nobody tried anything until he came on. The 17-year-old saying that, it's looking doom and gloom for them. I can't see them surviving at all. They might get to survive through the playoffs, but I don't think they deserve to stay up with the lack of fight they're showing. And then I think it comes down between Sparta, Roda, and Excelsior for the last spot. Excelsior are improving. Roda, it's going to be interesting for them because they've got a new owner. Russian millionaire is saying he's going to be in the Champions League in the next 5 years. I wonder what relegation does to that plan. And Nicholas and Elka's there in some role. Wonder what'll happen if they go down. Will they stick around? I think they're in big trouble. But if they get a win against Sparta this weekend, that's huge, and that might kickstart a revival. But I think it's the title race is exciting. I think we're exciting running at the bottom as well, and it's a couple of weeks to go. It's anyone's to guess. And Go Ahead Eagles are definitely down, but there's 4 or 5 other teams that could get dragged into it.
I can see Eredivisie beating Sparta Rotterdam on Saturday. I think that will be a much needed 3 points for them. I think whoever does finish in the relegation playoffs, if you take the predictions that I've given of Sparta and possibly Nijmegen, they will have their work cut out in the relegation playoffs. Normally, in previous years, teams from the Eredivisie that have finished in the relegation playoffs have always won through, always dispatched Europa League teams with little effort. But I think this year in particular, I think the teams that do end up in the relegation playoffs from the Eredivisie are going to struggle to maintain their Eredivisie status. I think obviously you're depending on when the promotion playoffs rounds when they become clearer. But I would be surprised if there aren't at least two newcomers to the Eredivisie next season.
I'm in disagreement there, James. I think in recent seasons the teams have tended to go down. There was a time when there were 3 seasons in a row. This isn't too long ago as well. This is within the last 6-7 years when the 3 teams would always go down, the 2 in the playoffs in the Eredivisie. This hasn't happened in the last 2 seasons, I believe. But yeah, I think this season actually there aren't too many challengers below VVV for promotion. As you can see, young PSV and Ajax are pushing towards the top end, and they're looking like they can beat some teams quite easily in Europa League, and that wasn't the case before. It tends to struggle. Perhaps that's because DC teams are strengthening, but in my opinion, they're almost the barometer for the strength of the league. But that's just my opinion. I don't watch too much of the Europa League, but I think Nijmegen might struggle in the playoffs, no matter which team they play, just because I think they can get caught out by a team that's just hungrier. Rowe will have that fighting spirit. They're almost the Hamburg or the Sunderland of the Eredivisie. They just seem to stay up by some sort of miracle. A big team that always looks like they're going to go down but ends up fighting to stay up.
I've just quickly looked at the current league table of the Europa League, and you've got in contention for the promotion playoffs at the moment. You've got teams like Cambuur Leeuwarden, Volendam, Maastricht, NAC Breda, Almere City. I think if Sparta and Nijmegen, just to give an example of the 2 that I think will finish in the relegation playoffs, I think if Sparta and Nijmegen have to face one of Breda, Volendam, Cambuur, Almere City, I personally think they'll have to work out. And I think if they were to win through, then they may well be relying on a second leg at home, or because you also have to remember that the teams from the Europa League, that in the case of NAC Breda, they're itching to return at the earliest possible opportunity. The same goes for Cambuur Leeuwarden. Volendam have had a very good season as well. And I just think when I look at Sparta Rotterdam and when I look at Nijmegen, if they are up against a physical team like Almere City, for example, in Almere, where a result is needed, then I think they may well come unstuck.
If you look at Cambuur as well, how they did in the KNVB Cup as well,
Yeah.
I think it could be a challenge for either side in the relegation zone. I'd like to see Volendam come close on a few occasions the past few years, and they always seem to get to the playoffs and then falter. It'd be nice to see them go back up. Almere City as well, I would like to see them get up. I just have some different teams in the Eredivisie. It was nice to see the Graafschap up there for a wee while. I'd like to see new teams come up.
I mentioned something different for the listeners. Obviously, this is now our eighth podcast, and I'd like to think that the listeners are gaining more and more familiarity with all 4 of us, really, especially with all 4 having something to bring to the table in terms of knowledge and to learn something different, and that's exciting for the listeners. What I was going to suggest was that on this particular occasion is that maybe the panel could come up with certain Dutch memories they have as regards to Dutch football. For example, could be a national team, could be a club side. Any particular memories that stick with members of the panel through the years, really. To give an example of my own, one of my best memories is coming to Amsterdam. It was my very first trip to the Netherlands to watch my team Arsenal play Ajax in the Champions League in 2003. And the whole experience to go to the Ajax stadium to watch them play against my team, to see a Dutch team at first hand. And this was an Ajax team that contained Christian Kivu, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Andy van der Meijden, Steven Pienaar, and it was a really, really, really good, young, eager side, and it really opened up my eyes to what Dutch football has to offer. Because obviously I was aware of the reputation beforehand. Because obviously that Ajax are the biggest club in the Netherlands, and things works out the way they did. And my life changed really, because 2 years later I emigrated to live in this city. So if it wasn't for that game, my life could have been on a completely different course. But in a memory sense, in terms of football, it was just like something from a different world, really. And it was a fantastic experience and a fantastic memory.
I hope you don't mind giving me mine. There are two memories for me. I guess the first that really got me into Dutch football was the 2010 World Cup final. And it was Robben missing that one-on-one with Casillas in the World Cup final. Had he scored that, totally different story, and a lot of happy Dutch people. Obviously very disappointing, but before that, my interest in the Dutch national team was piqued by my very very sort of new interest in the Eredivisie, because I followed Wilfred Bouma. I'm an Aston Villa supporter, and when Freddie Bouma used to play with Villa, I always seemed to like him. I'm not sure why, but he was perhaps one of my first sort of role models to be a fullback. I'm a right back when I play football, but he was always a left back. He was a very good player, and I always felt really sorry for him when he got that very awful ankle injury where he dislocated his ankle. And I still remember that match in the Intertoto Cup when he broke it, and you saw his foot hanging the wrong way around on his ankle, and it was so disgusting. But yeah, I always felt sorry for him. And then when he left Villa to return to PSV, and he became a very good player again, he performed really well at centre back, and that was what really got me into the Eredivisie, because I always wanted to follow my favourite player in another league, and then suddenly I was introduced to this whole new world of Dutch football, and never looked back since then.
Yeah, for me, growing up with Dutch family, I was always reminded of Van Basten, Gullit, Rijkaard. That was like the three names that got spoken to me when I was a kid. I've always watched the Dutch national team. Supported them since I was a kid, along with Scotland. First memories really Euro '96. But then the first tournament I really remember was '98, and I have very vivid memories of Dennis Bergkamp scoring that goal against Argentina when I was sitting at my aunt's house watching it, and going mental when that went in. Other memories, being a Newcastle fan, they came up against a lot of Dutch sides in the UEFA Cup back then. They played here and beat them. I always remember a young Klaas-Jan Huntelaar scoring against Newcastle before he got his move. And there's games against PSV. I remember the late Gary Speed scoring a late header against PSV in the UEFA Cup, and they put Newcastle through there. The Craig Bellamy goal against Feyenoord. These are all great games against Dutch sides. Sadly the Dutch side losing halfway for Newcastle to win. But in the national team, just the memories of 98, 2000. It always seems to be they play great football, losing in the end on penalties. That seems to be the way for me growing up. Probably my favourite Dutch memory has been a recent one. The World Cup 2010, Van Bronckhorst scoring that goal against Uruguay. That was a great moment. But there's not many games I can remember watching where I've been happier than Netherlands hammering Spain 5-1. I think we could probably all say we watched that game, but nobody expected it coming into the tournament. Everyone's saying Netherlands would probably could finish bottom of that after Euro 2012, disaster that, and then it's playing Spain off the park in the second half. Ending their reign after 2010. It couldn't get better than that, I don't think.
Yeah, I grew up an Arsenal fan, and basically watching Dennis Bergkamp. Even though he was sort of an older player, the technique, the phone, some of his execution was still there, and even with Kieran, he was a player that was very interesting to me, and I always wondered where sort of ability like that is sort of honed and molded. And that's when I took an interest in Ajax and some of the players that were coming through there. And also, I watched Ajax. I watched them get beat by, in the Champions League by Real Madrid and things like that. And then I watched them beat Barcelona at the Amsterdam Arena. That will forever be a game that resonates with me, and in the way that they played. And as I started to learn more and more about the Eredivisie, I started to enjoy it, and it's one of my favorite leagues to watch now. And just, I think that you feel privileged to watch a lot of young players coming through, and some of them you wouldn't expect to move to a higher league, and they do, and they improve, and just knowing that you got onto the ground floor of the brilliance is very it's inspiring, and it's what a bit of football is all about. I think my first full Eredivisie season was Memphis Depay's final season, and just when he went to Manchester United and Wijnaldum went on to Liverpool, just knowing how good they were before everybody else was a pleasure to me. And I think that's what makes it such an entertaining league. And Dutch football, the legends around Dutch football have always been interesting and entertaining to me. And whenever there was a documentary out when I was a kid, I was always there, sat in front of the TV. And I always enjoy consuming the Eredivisie and the Dutch national team.
That was nice. That's obviously a very nice thing for the listeners, hopefully, and they'll enjoy obviously knowing a bit more about us now. I was hoping we could finish this week's podcast with our Twitter questions. So I have them here, and should we start with this one? And it's talking about the Dutch national team. Is KNVB taking any remedial measures to rectify the youth development model that everyone else has copied to surpass the Dutch national team?
I know that they invested in the official campus in a place called Zeist, where they've developed a campus where they have lots of training pitches, where they have an infrastructure in terms of offices and for player development, in terms of meetings and modules and speeches and those kind of things. I think they have tried to push on and invest in that respect. I think just in recent years with the success of 2010, which surprised everybody, they really felt that a chance had been missed not to win the World Cup for the first time. My personal opinion on that final is that if they'd have just played their own game, they would have won that final. And that's the saddest thing for me. I think when they managed to Euro 2012 and the impressive showing at the World Cup, I just think since Van Gaal has gone, I think that the whole organisation has lost its way a little bit, where they used to always put the long-term health of the national team in all facets at the very front. And now I think certain members of the Dutch FA who are only maybe looking at their own interests, that's overtaken that, which is a bit of a shame. But I know with the campus that they've developed, that they've put an awful lot of effort in terms of infrastructure to have enough training pitches, to have enough amenities for even if there are meetups of different national teams at different levels, that they have enough at their disposal to have all the resources they need to train and to learn properly.
Yeah, they're undergoing a bit of a reform of the coaching system. With Ronyan's leading role as head of the head educator of the coaches in the summer. I think in regards with the youth system, it's in a club by club basis where that club is in control of its own academy and bringing through players. I think in regards to the national team and the youth national team, there's been so much change, not only in the national team but in the youth national teams, especially in managers and systems and players. There's been a lot of there's been quite a few generations of players who have just moved through the youth systems and haven't really gone under one coach and able to hone their styles with the national team and the youth teams. And I think they're going to try to do that more. They've got Art Langela, who's who's the under-21 head coach. He used to be PEC head coach and head of youth development at PSV. And, it looks like he will be given time. He was sort of brought in at the end of a failed Euro qualifying phase last season, and now he has to sort of rebuild with a new young Oranje, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes. There's a lot coming through the Eredivisie, but it'll be interesting to see how it's groomed, how sort of players are managed and things like that, and seeing where Ferdi Kadioglu goes in the summer will also be huge, because you don't want a 17-year-old going to a league like Turkey where he's sort of where it's sort of there, it's about the right now instead of let's look a few years into the future. So I think there can be the trying to they're focusing on restructuring coaches and how they educate coaches, and in regards to youth development, it's mainly just a club by club basis.
And another question is, how can you follow or perhaps learn more details about the KMVB Professional Football Coaching Program? Any help there?
The KMVB site. There's a website where I think everyone sort of linked in the higher positions and the KMVB have blogs. So I think if you just Google KMVB and then it will take you there, and then you'll be able to see what's going on in and around the organization.
Yeah, Chaka says Google it. So another question from Chris is, are there any larger clubs knocking on the door of Bastos? And yeah, he's top goal scorer in Portugal, so have they been drawing some eyes, his goals?
I think if you look at a lot of his goals, they're all tap-ins from close range. I think Alex Kelly doesn't score very many goals from outside the box. I don't think the big clubs will come in from. I think if clubs come in from, it'll be ones that are linked to him last summer. Newcastle are linked to him. So you're looking at your bottom half, mid-table Premier League sides, and same in the Bundesliga, be like a middle-in side. Like he was at Wolfsburg, he did well there. That level of club. I don't think you're not going to get a team challenging for the title in England going for Bastos. If you do, you'll be a bench player. Might come on for an impact at the end. I don't think he has been scoring goals left, right, and centre and scoring Lisbon, but you're not seeing anybody linked to him at the moment. I don't think there's been anybody. I know it's not summer yet. It probably will be in a couple of weeks, but you're not going to get the big sides. Real Madrid or Barcelona aren't going to look at Bastos. It's going to be mid-table side, if anybody.
I think personally you could draw a parallel between Bastos and Ricky van Wolfswinkel. When Ricky van Wolfswinkel was at Sporting Lisbon, A few years ago, he was scoring for fun, scoring regularly, making a real good impression in local press as well as international press. And he decided to go to Norwich shortly after that. So I think in the case of Bastos, who openly claimed when he left Wolfsburg that I'm leaving to play more regularly, I think he'd be wise to stay at Sporting a little bit longer, just to see how that works out. It's a big club. It's a nice club. If I was him, I'd stay put. And if he does continue to score as regular as he has been this season, he'll be wise to make a sensible choice when clubs do come in for him.
Yeah, I think James is right there. I think Dost is more likely to try and develop himself in the Portuguese league. The issue with the league in that country is it's deceptively strong because of the top teams, Porto, Benfica, Sporting Lisbon. And I'm looking at Dost's record here of goals, and apart from a goal against Benfica where they lost, he hasn't been important in the big matches. He hasn't shone particularly for the Netherlands yet. He hasn't been important for them, and I don't think he's really he hasn't scored a couple of goals against one of the big teams to win a huge match, and I just haven't seen much importance here from his goal record. I think that's where he needs to improve before he can think of a big move elsewhere.
Yeah, only one goal in the Champions League this season as
well. A question here about David Klaassen. What's his best position for the national team? Offensive midfielder, wide playmaker, or false nine?
Yeah, I think I wrote that his best position would probably be as a 10, but I think it's now as an 8. I think that's where Peter Bosz has tried to groom him this season. And I think his ability to just score goals and just create things in the final third when he can be quite absent in games. While he's also developed the physical side of his game, he's also very strong in the challenge, very good at holding off players. There's been a few instances where he shoved some players off in the Eredivisie, and you're like, wow, I didn't know he was that strong. So I think that his best position is as an 8, playing back and forth, and where he's able to face play more. I think in Holland we've got a lot of midfielders right now who can play the number 8 role, but when they're pushed into the higher role, they're sort of looking behind them a lot, and they don't have sort of the instinct to really make influence the game in that position. And it's something that happens with Davi, Papa, Klaassen, and a lot of players of that ilk. So I think he would do best as an 8 going forward.
I would select him as an attacking midfielder. He's come on leaps and bounds in recent years. He made his debut for Ajax in 2011, and in the past 5-6 seasons, he seems to have grown every year. Not just in being a physical, being more physical and being aware of his limitations to knock other opponents off the ball and that kind of thing, but also his presence in games. When he first arrived at Ajax and he first made his debut, was quite slight and wasn't really completely visible. But he seems to have grown in stature year on year, and being the captain of Ajax now, he's took to that role impeccably. And I would employ him as an attacking midfielder.
On Klaassen, I think I can see a lot of parallels between him and what Sim de Jong was for Ajax. He seems to be the man who gets the important goals. But a lot depends on what Klaassen does next. I saw an article this week, I can't remember who it was quoted, but basically saying that Klaassen's learned all he can in the Eredivisie. It's time to go, and I think I agree 100% with that. This summer, Klaassen's always been very coy about it and saying he doesn't want to leave until he's the best player in the division. But I mean, if he waits for that, he's not going to get moved abroad. And Ziyech, look at him. He's got a bit more to his game than Klaassen does. And I think this summer it's time for him to leave Ajax. He needs to learn abroad and widen his horizons a little bit, like Wijnaldum's doing at Liverpool. He's a lot more complete player than what he was at PSV. And I think if Klaassen gets to move abroad this summer, then we'll see what his real potential is.
I totally agree with Michael. Klaassen has become a much more industrious midfielder over the last 3 to 4 years. What surprised me with his development is, take this lightly, I guess, but he was a relative late bloomer for the Ajax academy because he wasn't the type to appear when he was 16, 17, 18. He made the bulk of his sort of first appearance when he was 20, turning 21, and only then has he really gone on and rapidly developed into the player he is now this season, where he's become a hugely important player. And I reckon that can only continue for Klaassen. I think he might go on again and surprise a few maybe and develop into an even better midfielder. And I think maybe his style is suited more for England because of his newfound physicality and his ability to just grab goals and assists and be important, as Michael said, like Siem de Jong was for Ajax.
I seem to remember when Klaassen was younger, and you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but he got a really bad injury when he was younger and he was just breaking into the Ajax first team. I think it was Johan Cruyff that actually recommended that he visit the medical staff of Barcelona and actually got him sent there to have a look at because he was one of Cruyff's favourite young players at Ajax at the time. I mean, if Johan Cruyff thinks you're a real talent, he's got something. It's just this summer, I think, it is time to move on and showcase it outside the Netherlands.
Yeah, he did get that bad injury, and there was a bit of a gap between his debut and the time where he really started to make his mark with the first team. He did win he was in the final of the next series where they lost against Inter Milan with Jo Veltman and Mitchell Dykes. And it is certainly time to move. He said he's having the best season of his career. I think he's 23, 24 years old, and Ajax are in a privileged position where they have a lot of players who can take up his role within the youth team. So I think selling him for a healthy fee would be beneficial in all aspects for them. And I think he's really developed in the Eredivisie. I think he's played as a 10. Frank de Boer 2 seasons ago played him in the second half of the season as a defensive midfielder, and he's really worked with Dennis Bergkamp on his technique and things like that. And you've really seen that hard work come to fruition. And Cruyff did rate him highly, and he's one of the better players in the league, and he's one of the players who are more ready to go to a big European league within the Eredivisie.
And we'll have one last question this week. Are there any better Dutch young wingers or in Eredivisie than Steven Bergwijn?
I think if you look at players that made an impact this season, then you'd say Justin Kluivert's made a bigger impact. A few games we've seen at him at Ajax, he looks like he's able to take on players a lot more than Bergwijn has. I think both of them need to work on their finishing at the end of it, but that's another one. Kadioglu's played out wide a little bit. He's had a big impact.
I think Bergwijn, it's very hard to judge potential, but he is very talented. One of the most talented wingers. His age group, Kluivert, has had a better effect on games. Bergwijn, when he's played it, he missed a huge chance against Rostov away at the beginning of the season. I think if he scored that, I think it would have been a different season for him. It was almost a few weeks after he scored his first goal against C, and then quite a few chances where he's missed them, and you've been like, wow. And he just needs to, I think, improve in the way he sort of takes on defenders. Private is very clever in the way he takes on defenders. He never ever lets a defender stand up to him. He's always on the move. He's so wily. He's so agile, and I think Bergwijn needs to add more of that to his game. And when he plays, he needs to be more demanding of the ball. He needs to really try to in his own hands. He needs to get into the position. And I hope that part of him is groomed with time, because I think those Kluivert and Bergwijn are sort of with Davni Dos Santos and players of that ilk are sort of the creme de la creme of some the Dutch wingers coming through right now.
I think it's only right to mention Bergwijn and Justin Kluivert. One thing I would say, the difference between the two, Peter Bos appears to be giving Kluivert more and more game time, coming in as a sub on most occasions, and giving him more and more confidence as the season goes on. I don't think the same can be said for Cocu with Bergwijn, because I don't think Cocu has been completely focused in bringing in the youth talents that PSV have, and that's going to be a massive key for them in the summer. If Bergwijn would have maybe had a manager who would show as much confidence in the case of what Peter Bos is doing with Kluivert, he may well be a little bit further on in his development. But as I said previous weeks, when we had a discussion about players maybe not giving their all before moving on for past a very young age, I stated that I don't believe it's just the players, it's also down to the manager they have, in the manager making the right decisions for their development, and I don't believe that Cocu has done that enough with Bergwijn in this instance.
One player that I'd like. Go on, Michael.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that you've also got Mitchell van Bergen of Vitesse. Even if you look at Eredivisie, VV Venlo, who are coming up, they have Theo van Krooi. He's a young winger, Dutch under-21 international. I think he could have a big impact on Eredivisie next season. He's young, he's really talented, he scores loads of goals in the second division. And he'll come through next year when he's in the Dutch top flight.
I was going to add another Eredivisie player into the mix and say Miller Rashica. He's probably one of the most skillful players in the league. I just worry for him that he maybe is a little bit too one-dimensional. As he uses his pace quite a lot. His crossing is very good. I just think he's a little bit predictable on times, but for what he does, he's very good at it, and he's one of Vitesse's most dangerous players. I think he can only get better, and he'd do well in a league like Italy where the ball was on the floor quite a lot, and he could really impress there. I think maybe not this season, but after the season for Vitesse, he might look to kick on elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's a wonderful talent. Also to mention, he's a young Dutch winger that come through, but there's several young Dutch wingers actually playing abroad at the moment. You've got Chong at Man United, he's a big talent. Daniel Malen at Arsenal, and you got Mink Peters at Real Madrid as well. There are now 3 young Dutch wingers to look out for in the future, I think.
So that's all for this week on our Football-Oranje podcast. Hope you enjoyed our 8th instalment of this, and give us your feedback on this week's podcast. Let us know what you want to hear more of in future. Give us your questions ahead of next week, and make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for listening.